The first time my daughter called another woman mom, I was standing right there. She didn't even hesitate. No stutter, no guilt, no glance in my direction. Just a soft, innocent voice saying, "Mom, can I sleep in your room tonight?" And she wasn't talking to me. That was the moment I realized my ex-husband hadn't just divorced me. He had erased me. He didn't scream. He didn't fight in court. He didn't try to destroy me publicly. No, he did something worse. He whispered, slowly, carefully, strategically. He told my children stories about me. He planted doubts. He rewrote history, and I didn't see it happening. Until my son looked at me one afternoon and said, "Dad says you left us because you don't love us anymore." I felt something inside my chest collapse, because I never left. I fought for shared custody. I begged to stay close. I gave up everything just to remain in their lives. But he gave them something louder: poison. And children don't know the difference between truth and repetition. So they chose him, and I let them, because I believed love would win in the end. I was wrong. Love doesn't win. Proof does. And one night, while looking for a missing school notebook, my children found something in their father's office drawer, something he never thought they would see, something that changed everything. And when they walked back into my life, they weren't crying. They were furious. And this time, they weren't angry at me. Divorce doesn't begin in court. It begins in silence, in the quiet space between two people who once couldn't sleep without touching. In the way laughter fades first, then conversations, then eye contact. I was 24 when my marriage ended. 24 with two small children who still believed monsters only lived under beds, not inside adults. If I had known what was coming, I would have paid closer attention to the signs. But love makes you blind, and exhaustion makes you compliant. Daniel didn't change overnight. That's the terrifying part. He evolved. Slowly. Strategically. At first, it was criticism disguised as concern. "You seem overwhelmed. You're always tired. You snap too easily. You're not as patient as you used to be." I was raising a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old mostly on my own, while he worked late building our future. Cooked, cleaned, did bedtime routines, packed lunches, managed school forms. But somehow I was the unstable one. If I cried from exhaustion, he'd sigh. "If this is too much for you, maybe you're not cut out for it." Those words don't bruise skin. They bruise confidence. And once confidence cracks, control seeps in. The divorce itself felt strangely peaceful. Too peaceful. No screaming matches. No public drama. No ugly court scenes. He stood before the judge looking composed, reasonable. "We both love our children," he said smoothly. "We've just grown apart." Even I believed that version for a moment. Shared custody was granted without resistance. 50-50. Fair. Civilized. I remember thinking maybe we would be one of those mature divorced couples. I had no idea I was walking into psychological warfare. It started small. The kids would come back from his house different. Quieter. More distant. My daughter, Lily, used to run into my arms when I picked her up. Now she waited. Sometimes she didn't hug me at all. My son, Noah, began asking questions that didn't sound like his own thoughts. "Mom, why do you get sad so much?" "Mom, Dad says you're happier without us." Happier without them? I felt my chest tighten the first time I heard that. "I'm never happier without you," I told him. But he looked unsure. Like he wasn't sure which version of me was true. That's when I understood something terrifying. Daniel wasn't attacking me directly. He was rewriting me. Children don't know manipulation. They know repetition. And repetition becomes truth. He started becoming the fun parent. Expensive birthday parties. Theme park weekends. Brand new tablets just because. Meanwhile, I had downsized into a modest 2-bedroom apartment across town. My part-time bookstore job barely covered rent and groceries. I couldn't compete with luxury. I could only offer stability. But stability doesn't sparkle. Then came the scheduling mistakes. "Oh, I forgot to tell you about the school recital. They already had a doctor's appointment. They're tired. Maybe next weekend?" At first, I tried to be understanding. Divorce is hard on kids, I told myself. Flexibility is maturity. But flexibility turned into exclusion. I found out from another mother that Daniel had attended a parent-teacher meeting without informing me. When I confronted him, he didn't yell. He smiled. "You worry too much, Sophia." It was nothing serious. Nothing serious. my role shrinking, my presence fading. Nothing serious. One afternoon during my custody weekend, Lily refused to come home with me. She clung to Daniel's leg. I want to stay here. It wasn't a tantrum. It was calm, decided. That scared me more. Daniel knelt beside her, brushing her hair back gently. If you don't want to go, sweetheart, you don't have to. My stomach dropped. That wasn't how custody worked. But he made it look compassionate. I didn't want to drag her away crying. So I said softly, it's okay. I'll see you soon. As I walked to my car alone, I felt something fracture inside me. Not anger. Helplessness. A mother shouldn't feel like a visitor in her children's lives. But that's exactly what I was becoming. A scheduled guest. Then I saw her. The girlfriend. Her name was Marissa. Younger than me. Confident. Always perfectly put together. I saw her first at a school pickup I wasn't told about. She stood beside Daniel, hand resting lightly on his arm, as if she had always belonged there. Lily ran straight into her hug. Not awkwardly. Not shyly. Naturally. Like she had practiced. I stayed hidden in my car that day, watching. Watching another woman adjust my daughter's backpack straps. Watching my son laugh at something she whispered. It felt like being erased in real time. Later that night, Noah asked me something that stopped my heart. Mom, did you leave Dad because you found someone better? I felt the world tilt. Why would you think that? Dad said you wanted a different life. I wanted air. I wanted respect. I wanted not to feel small in my own home. But that's not what he told them. To them, I wasn't suffocating. I was selfish. To them, he wasn't controlling. He was abandoned. And children protect the parent they believe was hurt. Suddenly, I wasn't just divorced. I was the villain in their bedtime story. The mother who gave up. The unstable woman who cried too much. The dramatic one. That word followed me everywhere. Dramatic. When I tried to correct misinformation. Dramatic. When I asked to be included. Dramatic. When I cried after they left. And then came the moment that broke something fundamental inside me. During a thunderstorm, Lily refused to sleep in my room. She used to run to me when lightning struck. Now she stood at my bedroom door and said quietly, Dad says you get scared and make things worse? I don't remember starting to cry. I just remember her looking at me like I was fragile. Like I was the child. That was the shift. I wasn't their protector anymore. I was the unstable parent. And Daniel never once insulted me directly. He didn't have to. He planted seeds. Little ones. Carefully placed. Watered with repetition. And slowly my children began speaking his narrative. I tried fighting it at first. Correcting stories gently. Explaining calmly. But any defense sounded like accusation. And any accusation made me look bitter. So I changed strategies. I stopped reacting. I started observing. Documenting. Saving messages. Recording canceled visitations. Writing down dates. Because something inside me whispered, truth doesn't disappear. It waits. Manipulators grow confident. And confident people get careless. I didn't know how long it would take, or what it would look like. But I knew this wasn't over. He thought he had won. He thought turning my children against me was the final move. But what he didn't understand was this. You can control a story. You can control a narrative. You can even control children for a while. But you cannot control curiosity forever. And one day, my children would start asking questions that even he couldn't answer. That was the day everything would change. And I would no longer be the villain. I would be the truth they never saw coming. There's a specific kind of pain that doesn't scream. It sits quietly. It waits. And it spreads. That's what was happening to my family. Daniel didn't need to shout anymore. He didn't need to argue with me in court or send angry messages. He had already chosen a more effective weapon. Patience. The weeks turned into months, and the emotional distance between me and my children became measurable. Phone calls grew shorter. Hi, Mom. Yeah, school was fine. Can I go now? Click. No, I miss you. No stories about playground fights or funny teachers. Just polite detachment. Like I was an aunt, not their mother. One evening, I showed up to Noah's soccer game, a game I found out about through another parent. I stood near the fence, quietly watching him play. He used to look for me in the crowd. That day, he didn't. He ran straight past me during halftime and into Daniel's arms. Daniel lifted him high, laughing proudly. Marissa stood beside them, holding juice boxes and towels. They looked like a complete family. Perfect, balanced, whole. I felt like an extra in my own child's life. When Noah finally noticed me, his smile faded slightly. Oh, hi, Mom. Not excitement. Not joy. Surprise. As if I wasn't expected. Good game, I said gently. He nodded. Dad said you might be busy. Busy? With what? Breathing? Trying not to fall apart? I glanced at Daniel. He gave me a small, controlled smile. The kind that said you can't prove anything. And he was right. I couldn't. Because manipulation doesn't leave fingerprints. It leaves doubt. A few days later, Lily asked if she could call Marissa for help with a school project. You can call me, I said softly. She hesitated. She explains things better. Better. I swallowed the sting. I helped her anyway. But she kept checking her phone like she was missing someone else's approval. That night, after dropping them back at Daniel's house, I sat in my car longer than usual. I wasn't angry. I was disappearing. And that scared me more than rage ever could. Then something changed. Small at first. Noah started asking more specific questions. Mom, why did you and Dad really divorce? We just couldn't make each other happy anymore. That's not what Dad says. My heart tightened. What does he say? He says you gave up on us. The words didn't hit immediately. They sank slowly, like cold water filling my lungs. I never gave up on you, I whispered. But his expression was conflicted, confused. And that confusion gave me a tiny spark of hope. Confusion meant cracks. Cracks meant light could get in. The turning point came on an ordinary Tuesday. Daniel had to travel for work unexpectedly. He asked if I could keep the kids for an extra 3 days. Of course I said yes. I would take any extra time I could get. When they arrived, something felt different. Not warmer, but observant. They were watching me, studying, as if comparing reality to a story they had been told. That first night, Lily wandered into my bedroom after midnight. She hadn't done that in months. Mom? I sat up immediately. Yes, baby? Do you cry because of us? The question stunned me. No, never because of you. She crawled into bed beside me. Dad says you're sad because you regret leaving. I took a slow breath. I'm sad sometimes because divorce is hard, but I don't regret loving you. She didn't respond, but she didn't pull away either. That was new. The next afternoon, while they were doing homework at my small kitchen table, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Daniel. Don't confuse them. That was it. No context. No explanation. Just a warning. I looked up and noticed Noah watching me. Is it Dad? Yes. What did he say? I hesitated. Then I made a choice. He said he hopes you're doing well. Not a lie. But not the truth either. Because the truth would have made them choose sides. And I refused to do what he was doing. That evening, while they played in the living room, I went to grab extra paper from Noah's backpack for a drawing he wanted to finish. That's when I saw it. A folded sheet tucked inside a side pocket. At first, I thought it was homework. But when I opened it, my hands went cold. It was a printed email. From Daniel. To someone named Attorney Blake. Subject line, custody adjustment strategy. My pulse started racing. Why was this in Noah's bag? Why wasn't it at Daniel's house? The email wasn't long, but it was enough. We need to accelerate the emotional preference shift. The children are responding well to stability reinforcement. Sophia is emotionally reactive, which works in our favor. If we maintain narrative consistency, full custody within a year is realistic. My vision blurred. Emotional preference shift, narrative consistency. They weren't just drifting away naturally. It was planned, structured, strategic. And somehow, my son had been carrying this. I folded it quickly when I heard footsteps. Noah stood in the doorway. Mom? I forced calm into my voice. Yes? Why do you look scared? I looked at him, really looked at him. And for the first time in months, I didn't see distance. I saw doubt. And doubt meant he was thinking for himself. I knelt down in front of him. Can I ask you something? He nodded slowly. Do you feel like you have to choose between me and Dad? His silence answered louder than words. That's when I understood. The poison had settled, but it hadn't fully hardened. And children? When they sense manipulation, they start searching. I didn't confront him that night. I didn't show him the email. Not yet. Because this wasn't just about exposing Daniel. It was about letting my children discover the truth themselves. And something told me, That email wasn't the only thing hidden in that house. Daniel thought he was controlling the story. He didn't realize the audience was growing older. And older children ask questions. The kind of questions that unravel lies. This wasn't revenge anymore. This was awakening. And it had just begun. There is a moment when children stop believing automatically. It doesn't happen loudly. It happens in silence. In observation, in comparison, in the tiny space between what they're told and what they feel. After finding that email in Noah's backpack, I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was shocked, but because I was certain now. This wasn't accidental. It was orchestrated. Daniel wasn't winning their love. He was engineering it. But I couldn't storm into his house waving printed proof. That would only confirm the narrative he had built. That I was unstable, reactive, dramatic. No, if this was going to fall apart, it had to fall apart naturally. 2 days later, Daniel returned from his trip. The kids went back to his house Sunday evening. When I hugged them goodbye, something felt different. Noah held on longer than usual, and Lily looked at me carefully. Not distant, but thoughtful. Children may be young, but they are not blind. That Tuesday evening, my phone rang unexpectedly. It was Lily. Not on Daniel's phone, on her tablet, which meant she had called me privately. "Mom," she whispered. My heart jumped. "Yes, sweetheart? Are you busy?" "Never too busy for you." There was hesitation on the other end. Then she said something that made my pulse quicken. "Dad said not to go in his office when he's not home." A pause. But Noah did. My breath slowed deliberately. "Okay." He said we're not supposed to look in the bottom drawer. Of course not. Secrets are always in the bottom drawer. "What did Noah find?" I asked gently. Another pause. "Papers." "What kind of papers?" He looked scared. I closed my eyes. "Stay calm, Sophia." "What did they say, baby?" "I don't know all of it. But it said something about evaluation and parental instability and your name." The room around me felt suddenly smaller. He wasn't just planning. He was documenting, building a case, using their reactions as evidence. "Is Dad home?" I asked. "No, he went to dinner with Marissa." "And the drawer? Is it open?" Noah said he put everything back the way it was. "Smart boy. Listen to me carefully," I said softly. "You and your brother are not in trouble, okay?" "We're not?" "No, and you didn't do anything wrong." Silence. Then very quietly she asked, "Mom, is Dad trying to take us away from you?" There it was. The question Daniel thought they would never ask. I swallowed the emotion rising in my throat. "I would never stop you from loving your dad," I said carefully, "but no one should make you feel like you have to choose." She didn't answer, but she didn't hang up either. That night, something shifted permanently. The next weekend, when they came to my apartment, their energy was different. Less rehearsed. Less guarded. More observant. Noah waited until Lily was in the bathroom before speaking. "Mom?" "Yes?" I saw more than Lily did. I kept my voice steady. "Okay. There's a folder with your name on it." My pulse thudded in my ears. "What's in it?" "Notes." "What kind of notes?" "Stuff about when you cried. When you were late picking us up. When you forgot to sign my homework one time. Tiny human mistakes. Weaponized." "He wrote dates," Noah continued. "And there were emails printed. And something about a child psychologist recommendation." The room went silent. He wasn't just influencing them emotionally. He was preparing a legal strike, building a portfolio of evidence, and using their normal childhood behavior as leverage. "Why would he do that?" Noah asked. I didn't answer immediately. Because this was the moment. The line between truth and bitterness. "I don't know what your dad is planning," I said slowly. "But sometimes adults make decisions based on fear." "Fear of what?" "Losing control." He studied my face, like he was comparing it to the version he'd been given. Then he said something I will never forget. "You don't look unstable." It was such a small sentence, but it cracked something open. Children believe what they see. And what he was seeing didn't match the file. That Sunday night when Daniel came to pick them up, something subtle happened. Noah didn't run to him. He walked. Lily hugged me twice. Daniel noticed. Of course he did. His eyes narrowed slightly. He sensed it. Control slipping. 3 days later, my phone rang again. This time it was Noah. His voice wasn't whispering. It was shaking. "Mom?" What happened? We went back in the office. My heart started pounding. Noah? He has recordings. The words hit like a physical blow. Recordings of what? Arguments? When you cried? When you sounded upset? My stomach dropped. He kept them? Yes. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Private moments. Stored. Cataloged. Prepared for presentation. He recorded you? Noah asked, disbelief in his voice. I didn't lie. Yes. There was a long silence. Then came the sentence that changed everything. He told us you were crazy. And this time, there was anger in his voice. Not confusion. Not doubt. Anger. We're not babies, he continued. We know when someone is acting different. The realization had landed. On its own. Without me pushing. Without me accusing. Truth had walked into that house and opened a drawer. And Daniel had forgotten one critical thing. Children grow. They notice patterns. They compare behavior. And once trust cracks, it doesn't repair easily. Mom, Noah said quietly, if he tries to take us away, we won't lie. Tears filled my eyes. Not from sadness, from relief. Because I hadn't fought dirty. I hadn't poisoned them back. I had waited. And now, they were seeing him clearly. That night, I sat alone in my apartment staring at the wall. Daniel thought he was 10 steps ahead. But he underestimated one thing. Curiosity. And once children begin asking questions, you cannot silence them with repetition. You need truth. And Daniel's truth was locked in a drawer. But not anymore. The next move wouldn't be mine. It would be theirs. And that terrified him. The confrontation didn't happen the way I imagined. There was no dramatic courtroom reveal. No screaming match in the driveway. No shattered glass. It happened on an ordinary Thursday evening. And it was led by my children. Daniel didn't know I was coming over. He thought the weekend would unfold like usual. Predictable. Controlled. Safe. He didn't expect the shift. When I pulled into the driveway, both kids were already outside waiting. That alone told me everything. They weren't being sent out. They had come out. Together. United. Daniel stepped onto the porch a few seconds later, confused. Sophia, what's going on? His tone was calm. But his eyes were alert. Scanning. Calculating. Noah didn't wait. Dad, we need to talk. Daniel blinked, slightly thrown off. About what? About the folder. Silence. Not loud. Not explosive. Just still. Daniel's jaw tightened for half a second. Then he recovered. What folder? Lily stepped forward. The one with Mom's name on it. His eyes flickered. That was the first crack. I don't know what you're talking about, he said smoothly. Noah didn't hesitate. We saw the recordings. That did it. For the first time in months, Daniel looked unprepared. You went through my office, he asked sharply. Notice that. Not denial. Not explanation. Deflection. You told us not to, Lily replied softly. So we wanted to know why. Daniel looked at me then, as if this was my doing. I said nothing. Because this wasn't my moment. It was theirs. You recorded her? Noah's voice wasn't scared anymore. It was angry. Daniel sighed, running a hand through his hair. I was protecting you. From what? Lily asked. From instability, he answered. That word again. Instability. Like I was a storm. Like I was dangerous. Noah shook his head. She's not unstable. Daniel's expression hardened slightly. You're too young to understand. And that was his mistake. Because children know when they're being dismissed. No, Noah said. We're old enough to know when someone lies. The air shifted. Daniel looked at me again. Expecting reaction? Drama? Emotion? But I stood still. Calm. Present. Exactly the opposite of the woman he had described in that folder. You told us she left because she didn't love us, Lily whispered. Daniel opened his mouth. But nothing came out. Because the story collapses when the audience refuses to clap. You made us think she didn't want us, Noah continued. But she always shows up. Daniel's voice grew firmer. I did what I thought was best. For who? Noah shot back. And there it was. The question he never prepared for. For who? For the children? Or for control? Daniel looked smaller in that moment. Not physically, but structurally. Like the version of him they had believed in was shrinking. You were trying to take us away, Lily said. Her voice broke slightly. And we love Mom. Daniel's face tightened. I never said you couldn't love her. You made it feel like we shouldn't, Noah replied. Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. Then something happened that even I didn't expect. Noah reached into his backpack and pulled out his phone. I took pictures of the papers. Daniel's composure shattered. You what? In case you deleted them. Smart. Careful. Observant. Daniel looked at me then. Not confident, not controlled, but cornered. You put them up to this. I finally spoke. No, I didn't. And that was the truth. I hadn't needed to. Truth raised them for me. You tried to make her look crazy, Noah said. Daniel's voice dropped. She cries. Because you hurt her, Lily snapped. Daniel looked at both of them. And for the first time, he wasn't the hero. He wasn't the victim. He wasn't the stable parent. He was exposed. And children don't forget exposure. I was afraid, he said finally. That was the closest thing to honesty he had offered. Afraid she'd take you away from me. There it was. Fear of losing control. Not fear for their safety. Not concern for their well-being. Control. Noah looked at him steadily. You almost lost us anyway. That sentence landed. Harder than shouting ever could. Daniel's shoulders lowered. Because he realized something irreversible. They weren't little anymore. They were thinking, choosing, seeing. And the narrative he built? It didn't survive inspection. Lily walked over to me, wrapped her arms around my waist. And this time, she didn't hesitate. Noah joined her. 3 of us standing there. Not broken. Not divided. Together. Daniel stood a few feet away. Alone. And I didn't feel victorious. I felt free. Because revenge isn't always destruction. Sometimes it's exposure. Sometimes it's patience. Sometimes it's letting someone unravel by their own strategy. Daniel didn't lose custody that night. But he lost something more important. Authority over their perception. Trust. And once trust fractures, it doesn't rebuild easily. Weeks later, co-parenting looked different. Quieter. Less manipulative. Because he knew they were watching now. And as for me, I stopped feeling like the villain. Because the truth had walked into the room. And my children chose it. They chose me. Not because I fought harder, but because I stayed honest. And that is a revenge no one can prepare for. If this story moved you, if you believe truth always finds its way back, please subscribe to my channel Revenge Thoughts for more dramatic, emotional stories of betrayal, strength, and powerful comebacks. Because sometimes, the quiet ones win.